Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. This video will teach you how to play the basics of the violin in 25 bite-sized lessons. These videos are for anyone who is completely new to the violin and music in general and want to learn how to play the violin in their own time without being overwhelmed with too much information. If you want to view these lessons in their original elongated form, you can access them by clicking the link under this video. This content is part of my 1 to 30 violin course, which guarantees to take you from a complete beginner to an accomplished violinist in just 30 lessons. All links can be found in the description bar underneath these videos. Now, not all of these lessons will be interactive. Some will just be explaining a particular technique or music theory, and an icon will appear on the screen to show you whether it will be interactive or a theoretical learning session. At the beginning of each video, information will pop up on the screen to tell you what equipment and PDF printouts you will require for that lesson. Everybody ready? Let's begin. So in lesson 2, we're going to talk about tuning the violin. Now, the notes we tune to on the violin are E, A, D, and G. So if you're looking at your violin, starting from the right, going to the left, with the smallest string going to the thickest string, E, A, D, and G. Now, the best way to tune your violin is to get yourself some kind of tuning app on your phone. There are loads around that you can get. This is one that I've just had on my phone for a while, and if I press any of the strings here, it gives me a sound like this. So I can hear the sounds of the strings there. If you don't have access to an app or anything like that, I will put 4 videos below that give you the sound of each string that I did many years ago. And you can click on those videos and you can hear the sound of each string that you can use to tune your violin to. If not, you can also use a piano, you can use another instrument or anything else that you might have to hand that will give you the sound of those 4 strings. Now, when you get your violin out of the box, it's going to be quite badly out of tune. Now, I've put my violin out of tune to show you how to tune it. Yours may or may not be worse than this, but we need to first tune the violin by using the pegs. Most of you will have little fine tuners down here that we can use to finely tune when we've got close to the sound of the string that we want, but you're going to have to use the pegs. The key to using the pegs is very slowly. For those of you who play the guitar, you cannot treat violin strings like you do with a guitar. They're not geared pegs, for one, and second, the strings are so much smaller. Even the G string, which is the thickest one on the violin, you will break those strings. So you have to move the pegs just kind of millimeter by millimeter, very slowly. So tuning your violin up from scratch can take a little bit of time, and that's fine, but that's what we need to do. Otherwise, you're just going to break a load of those strings. So the first thing I'm going to do is get the sound of an A string. I'm just going to start with the A string. I always have, and that's what I tend to do. So that gives me the sound of the A. So I'm going to pluck the A string, and I can hear that it needs to go a little bit higher. So all I'm going to do So you can see that I'm very slowly turning the peg whilst I'm just plucking with my left thumb so I can hear how far I need to go. If I can't remember the sound of the A, I'm just going to play it again. So I need to go a little bit higher. Now I think that's more or less just about right. And I'm going to move on to the next one. So I don't know what a D sounds like, so I just need to hear the D. So I think that's a little bit too high, but that's fine. I can sort that out with the fine tuners at the end. I'm going to do the same with the G. And the E string. Okay, so now I think the strings are nearly there. I think a couple of them are just ever so slightly off. So the next thing you can do is just to keep playing the sounds of these and just to keep tuning your strings until you get there. And what you can do is you can use the fine tuners at the bottom. I don't have any fine tuners on all of my strings. I only have one on the E string. This is Obviously I have a professional violin, so I tune everything from the pegs, but once you've got your strings very, very nearly there, you will then use the fine tuners to just take you the rest of the way. The problem with the pegs is that the pegs will take you from a very badly out of tune to almost there, and then the fine tuners does what it says on the tin. The fine tuners will finely tune. So the fine tuners will sort of take you to exactly the note you want to go to. Now, at this point, you may be struggling to really hear whether those notes or whether those strings are in tune. You may think those notes sound in tune. They're not quite in tune. They're ever so slightly out of tune. So the other thing I would recommend that you get is some kind of violin tuner. I will put a link to where you can get one of these, or an example of where you can get one of these, directly underneath the video. But these are violin tuners, and when you turn them on, you put them on the body of the violin. I've got another one here which clips onto the pegs. So once you clip it onto the pegs and you turn it on, then when you start plucking, it will tell you whether you need to move your fine tuner to the right to make it go sharper or higher, or to the left to take the note down, to go a little bit flatter. So you can use your violin tuner or your guitar tuner to get your violin perfectly in tune. So once your violin is in tune, I will see you in lesson 3.